Hello, KC. You, sir, are up first.
Can you hear me?
Yep. How's it going, KC? Where are you playing out of, Mr. KC?
I am playing out of Kirkland, Washington. We are playing at the Caribbean Casino and Card Room.
Well, I have to say that this is absolutely the first time that we have gotten a submission. Washington State poker, from what I remember, is what is it? It's not quite like Oregon where they take, I don't know if they take a rake in Oregon, but what is Washington State? You can't, there's some max bet on the per street or something that like makes the game kind of hybrid or something like that.
Yeah, it's wild. So it is a $300 max bet per bet. So
Okay.
you can raise up to 300 or bet. You can bet and raise up to $300.
It's interesting because if usually with some sort of like weird rule like that, that would proliferate. Like they should get like some pretty big limit hold'em there because that wouldn't really affect limit hold'em. But I've never really heard that there's
It makes the bigger games pretty wild. So the 3-5 and then the 5-10-25 are still $300 max bets.
right. And then they also have Omaha. I mean, it's not really PLO because of the mat, and that's like a hybrid game. I remember talking to somebody about that. Like it's a weird hybrid between pot limit Omaha and limit Omaha, which is like a dead game. and you have to like think ahead about how you want to maybe sometimes structure bet sizes and stuff like that, right?
Absolutely. So I play PLO sometimes too, and it's not uncommon to have four-way showdowns in PLO
Yeah.
as well.
So what game is this?
So it's about 3:30 in the morning on like a Thursday night. So Friday morning, it is a 1-3 500 cap, eight-handed.
So 500 max buy-in, 500 max buy-in, but still has that $300 per bet rule. So obviously the lower stakes you go, the less it will come into play, but I'm sure it still will come into play sometimes, especially if you get deeper.
So there's also a four bet cap in Washington State too.
Okay.
So that does not include a straddle. So if there's each, so it would include the straddle would be one bet, and then there would be three raises, or there'd be four bets on the flop, turn, and river.
Okay. Okay. All right. So how deep are you here for this hand?
We're pretty deep. We're about 1,400 effective,
Okay. So 1400 effective in this sort of.
and I'm the effective stack.
Okay. All right. Start us off here.
So it is an under the gun straddle, and this young man who's probably 30-ish, late 20s, early 30s, he has been playing very, very loose, and he's very good. We are in an area where there's a lot of tech money and a lot of really bright people, and he qualifies as part of that as well.
Okay.
He is straddling to 6 under the gun, and he is the only one straddling, and he's straddling every time he has an opportunity.
Okay. Well, that changes things as opposed to obviously just like an occasional straddle. This is a all the time straddle.
He is straddling every time.
Right. Right.
Nobody else is straddling.
That's what, excuse me. Right. Right. That's what I meant. It's not an all the time straddle. It's just this guy is straddling all the time. Okay.
Yeah. All right. We get two field callers, and I am in the small blind with ace, queen of clubs.
All right. So limp, hero in the small blind with ace of clubs, queen of clubs. Okay.
And I raise it to 40.
Okay.
The straddler raises it to 140.
Straddle makes a small 3-bet here to 140. Okay.
Everybody folds but me, and I call.
All right. So limp, straddle pot at 136, 1400 effective. Hero, small blind makes it 40 out of the small blind. I mean, suppose you can make a case for making it a little bit larger, but whatever. You go to 40. This guy makes it 140, which is less than, well, I mean, I guess it's not that small. I guess it's just over 3x. For some reason, I had it in my head, it was a little bit over, or just under 3x. And then, I mean, usually a standard play here is going to be obviously to call. If somehow like a limper called in between, maybe you might actually 4-bet here. But I think heads up, I mean, you're out of position. Yeah, probably just a call. So hero calls 280. It's probably somewhere just under like 300. All right, what's the flop here?
Jack of clubs, 7 of clubs, and then an offsuit 5. I think it was a diamond.
Jack of clubs, 7 of clubs. I'm going to put 5 of diamonds. So you flop the not flush draw.
Yeah.
Okay.
I check, and villain bets 115.
So straddle bets 115, which is definitely kind of small sizing. And I mean, we've definitely spoken about this before on this particular show in terms of what are the types of draws that you will more often call versus more often raise. And usually that is draws that have absolutely no showdown value whatsoever unless they hit their hand, like an 8-9 of clubs, right? Which would be like a double gut shot with a flush draw. And that would,
Certainly in his range, yeah.
well, I'm talking about from your perspective, what your response here is. Something like 8-9 of clubs would get raised off here a lot. First of all, it's a 15-out draw, and you don't have no showdown value. So a lot of times, like nut flush draws, especially with 2 overcards, don't need to necessarily to be played all that fast when your head's up. And the reason why that, the most extreme example is ace king. Like if you had ace king suited here, it's just that you're just going to either you're behind or you're ahead actually, even without having a pair. Plus you've got the nut flush draw. Sometimes you might want to get a guy off of ace king, but if you were to raise here, it's obviously a semi bluff, and you can make a case for raising more often against range bettors that are only going to continue with top pair or better. And what I mean by that is like, if he's range betting 9s and 10s and even ace king, and you get him to fold all of those hands, and he probably has to fold if you check raise with an under pair, because there's just, if he's behind, he just doesn't have that much equity to improve, then you could make an easy case for raising here, even though traditionally nut flush draw plus like an overcard isn't raised. A hand like ace 6 of clubs would be raised more often because it's got, it doesn't have as much showdown value. Plus you've got the back door. So I don't know. I mean, I could see raising here. I could also see calling. I guess what my point is, it's just not a slam dunk raise. As much as some other types of club draws here on this board.
I thought that too. He's aggressive enough. I mean, he's raising everything. I wanted to take the betting lead so that if he does have ace king or even ace queen, I could blow him off his hand later.
Now, actually, I will say, with this kind of unique setup though, if you raise now, remember this setup where it's 300 max bet. See, this is what you have to think about if you're ever playing in Washington. If you raise now and your opponent continues, now your subsequent bets have far less fold equity, right? Because if you go to like 400 here and he calls, the pot's going to be like 1100. You're going to have like 1,000 left. You can't shove the turn. You can only bet 300 on the turn, right? So is there a case to be made, I suppose, for keeping the pot sometimes actually smaller earlier on so that you have more fold equity later on? As I think through this though, if you just call and the pot's like 500, if you check and he bets again, you still can only raise 300. Like now the pot's like, 550 instead of 1,000. If you check and he bets like 250, you can still only make it like 550. So it's kind of a weird, I would have to think about this a little bit more.
Yeah, there was definitely some of that going through my mind. I wanted to make sure too that this guy was prepared to pay me off if I got there, and not being able to get away from it as well.
So what did you do?
I raised
To how much?
315.
So here raises to 315. And I suppose that you make a case here for a smaller raise size for a number of different reasons. Again, even if you make a smaller raise size, if all the hands that don't have a jack have to fold out because they have so little equity and it keeps the pot a little bit smaller, then I could see a smaller raise size here than sort of in a normal no limit game because you can't set up a shove right on the turn. So you go to 315, okay.
And he calls.
So straddle calls. Yep. So it's 9. I'm gonna call a pot 930 now. Jack of clubs, 7 of clubs, 5 of diamonds. You check raise 315. He calls. Put in 630. So it's 930 here to the turn, and you guys probably have like 9. You have about a pot size bet left.
Yeah, if we could get it in.
Right. Yeah, the SPR, right? It doesn't really matter in this format. All right.
The turn.
Yep.
Is the ace of diamonds.
Interesting. So jack of clubs, 7 of clubs, 5 of diamonds. The turn is the ace of diamonds. And I got to say, though, like this is one of these spots where in a normal format where you're usually going to be using like let's say that your options were at one SPR, like just shove or check. You could see checking here to almost get future value on the river. In this format, it's only 300. I'm continuing to bet. The reason why I say this is like this card really improves your hand, actually, I think a lot. When you take a look at his 3-bet continue range, he can't have like ace king of clubs, right? Because you have ace queen of clubs. So what does this ace do besides help you? Well, I guess there's one combo of pocket aces left, and I guess he could have like ace jack, but that's pretty much it. I mean, he could, yeah, I mean, you're losing ace jack, but now you're ahead of kings and queens. And the thing is that your max bet's only 300. So if he continued, right, with kings and queens here, or, king jack suited or something like that, I think he has to call the 300, right, on the turn.
Yeah, he probably would.
Into 930. I'm just trying to get as much money in the pot here. It's just kind of the weird, the hybrid format of this.
Yeah, I felt like my hand looked a lot like, at this point, the nut flush draw. So I actually didn't bet. I checked.
Well, here's the thing about this again, and I'm not the best at like thinking about games that are outside the box or new rules. Not only do I see checking here in a normal format, you might get a guy to bluff sometimes in a normal format in a spot like this where, oh, you're going to make it look like you check and you're giving up, and you're not giving up. And he just blasts all in with very little equity, or he bets all in like with kings to protect, or you know what I mean? Something like that. But here that's not going to happen because he can only bet 300. So you're not folding your draws out. So you check if the guy bets, are you just going to call?
Exactly what happens too. He bets.
Okay, so hero checks. Now the villain in the straddle bets what, 300?
300.
Yeah. And you just call?
And I call. I'm thinking, what does he have? He has jacks. He still has ace jack. He might put me on like queens or tens at this point. And if he has a hand like ace jack, he bets, he wants to get value. If I have a hand like queen king of clubs, he wants to get value from any of my draws, which now are a combo draw. So he bets and I call.
What's interesting about this too, and most, I would say probably 99% of players that are listening to this probably have absolutely no experience in limit hold'em. But now you get into what I was talking about in these rare cases at the lowest level of limit hold'em principles. And I'm wondering in my head, it's been a long time from limit hold'em that, well, here's the thing about limit hold'em. Normally, if you get check raised on Jack 7-5 in limit hold'em after being the 3-better, you're probably gonna 3-bet the flop because it's just limit. But if I had kings or queens here and I just called your check raise in limit hold'em on the flop and you check the turn, I'm betting kings or queens in position. So I don't know if this guy's gonna bet here, and it makes me wonder, well, if he's betting kings or queens, can you even just check raise here to 600 with ace queen of clubs? But that might start to get a lot of those hands to fold out. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if these guys actually start to think about these limit hold'em principles in this particular spot. But straddle bets 300 into 930, hero calls. So now the pot is what, 1530, and you guys have like 600 left, right? Jack 7-5 ace. Okay. Backdoor diamonds too.
The river is the ace of spades.
The ace of spades. Well, what's funny about this, again, you look at this and like, I could see scenarios where, because this now is a limit hybrid, when you're up at the pot size and the guy can only bet 300, any type of player in limit hold'em, if you check to them, would bet queens and kings here and king jack in limit hold'em. Any type of player would do that because they beat basically every jack that you might check raise with. And they don't have to worry about it ever really getting opened back up to blow off their equity, right? Because it's just one bet. So in limit hold'em, you have to make these really, really thin bets. In a regular no limit hold'em, in a regular no limit format, I mean, you only have 630 left. You would think you probably just, I guess you just check call, because I don't know what guy is betting the turn here. I think in regular no limit, when you check the turn, if a guy bets, ace queen is kind of a bluff catcher. I mean, I know you have clubs, but it would kind of be hard for me to believe in regular no limit that someone would actually be betting the turn for value with something worse than ace queen. So the fact that another ace comes actually doesn't change anything. It just means that the guy might have more bluffs. So you could make a case for just check calling and inducing a bluff. Here, it's also weird because he should bet any kings and queens, king jack plus in this limit variant, but I don't know if that happened. It kind of makes me want to bet because I don't know at 1-3, how often does the pot get this big where we get into this scenario with it, where it becomes limit hold'em? Can you answer that for me? It's probably not that common, right?
Really uncommon.
Yeah. That's why I kind of want to like, might just bet because like I don't want kings or queens to check behind. But in theory, I suppose you could make a case here. I actually think in theory in limit hold'em, honestly, the more I look at this in limit hold'em, I think when you get to this river, it should be check raised. Your hand should be check raised in limit hold'em because you're going to have king jack plus bet on the river here. And if you just bet, they're just going to call. And it's not like no limit where a lot of these guys will check behind with those hands because they're scared. In limit hold'em, those hands should bet. So in limit hold'em, if I played a hand this way, I would check raise the river. Here, you know, I don't know. I mean, you only have 630 left. Anyways, what did you do? Did you check the river?
I checked the river.
All right, so hero checks. Yep.
He's aggressive enough to where he's going to bet any missed draws. He's aggressive enough to where he's probably going to bet a jack, queens, and kings if he has any of those hands. He didn't disappoint either. He bet the max bet of 300.
So straddle bets 300. And again, I don't want to just totally repeat myself of what I said before. In limit hold'em, I think this would definitely be a check raise. Here, if people aren't betting because this situation doesn't come up all that much, they're not betting like the hands that they should bet in a limit hybrid, then you can make a case here for calling. But the reason why this is a check raise is because the hero's only making it 600. The guy's betting 300 into 15. They only have 630 left. You're basically just check raising all in, right? Because you have 630 left in your stack. And you talk about reverse pot odds. So,
I think the only hands that call me here, even with him being as aggressive as he is, are either hands that are the same as me, right? I don't think he calls the river with, a king jack, queen jack. I think he obviously calls with ace jack, ace king, and ace queen, and jack's full. And I didn't see any value
if that's
time to raise.
Right. If that's the case, yes, it's just a call. In normal no limit, this would be a call. Theoretically, with deeper, absolutely. That's what everybody in the chat is sort of thinking through. I'm just talking about when you get to big pots in this variant, it becomes a check raise because there's so many more value hands that are bet in limit hold'em. And people don't fold because you're basically making the minimum raise. I mean, they get such incredible pot odds that they're almost forced to pay off because he's betting 3 into 15. You make it, 24. It's 2,400, 300 for him to call. He's getting like 8-1. That's why it is. But if people aren't playing like that, if they're not thinking about this and not responding to it, obviously I can see this as just a call. Hero calls.
Yeah. What would my bluffs be on the river though? That, I mean, even 8-1, if he has, queen jack, does he ever call? Right? Or queens?
I think he should be betting kings, queens, and king jack in a limit format. Right. No, I understand what you're saying, but the pot odds get so extreme though that you just almost have to pay off in limit hold'em just on the one, because if you're going to get bluffed in these situations, and pots get a lot bigger. You get these situations like in limit hold'em where you're getting like 15, 16-1, and you just almost have to pay off because just the one of those times something happens. You know what I'm saying? But you make the call, okay? And
you want
tell us the reveal.
Showdown?
Yep.
He has 10 of spades, 10 of diamonds.
10 of spades, 10 of diamonds?
Yep.
What the WTF?
Yeah, I talked to him later and he thought I was on a draw.
Yeah, but why would you bet so that's such a bad bet with tens because if you have king jack and you're going to showdown, what's the point of betting tens here? Is it a bluff? Is it value? I don't get it.
So one of the things about this limit game or this $300 max bet too is that 300 is both strong in that it's the max bet, but it's also weak in that it's not very much in a pot this size.
Right, but the guy has the ability to just check behind and realize his equity, right? I'm not missing him. He's in position. He's not even scared that, like, first of all, it's not like you know how sometimes people like button click and they bet out of position because they don't know what to do. In this format, there would be no need to do that because it's only 300 anyways. It's like you're not betting to control the pot size like a block because it's only 300, but he can just check behind. His hand is so in between, it just doesn't make any sense because, like, you're not going to really ever call him down with a worse hand. So what would be the point of the bet if he can just check back and realize his equity, right? Because, I mean, we've gone over, like, a lot of times, like, in recent call-ins about this whole theory of block betting rivers when it prevents your opponent from bluffing you. But that doesn't happen. You can't block in position on the river. The choices on the river in position are bet for value or bet as a bluff. And if you're doing it in between, then there's something wrong, right?
Right. And what am I folding there? Queen Jack?
Well, let's say that you missed your draw, that he doesn't need to bet, right? And you're not folding Queen Jack. If you got there with Queen Jack, I don't think you're going to fold, right? You're getting 6-1. It's really hard to fold. It's not like he's betting pot, right? So that's why it's very, very bizarre. It's a very bizarre bet. But that's an interesting one to kind of think through. And I know that these things get really, really strange in Omaha. I mean, you must get into some really strange spots in PLO, quote unquote, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Equity's running tight, heads up. They're running really tight 4 ways to the river.
Yep. Casey, thank you very much for the call. I appreciate it.